There's always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Well, it sure is. Glad to have you here as we kick off another brand new day. 3 more hours of television excellence, radio excellence, streaming excellence, broadcast and media excellence. Here we are kicking off another brand new day, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Who do you want in your foxhole when the chips are down? Big question, right? You need to think about that every day. 3 big things you need to know this hour. Number 1, the fight over birthright citizenship now in front of the United States Supreme Court. It could decide how the 14th Amendment is applied going forward, properly, or still any child can be an American. Number 2, could we see some massive drops in interest rates this month? Maybe, because we've seen a monthly payroll drop of 32,000, biggest since March 23. Red flag for the economy. That comes from ADP, by the way. And number 3, as you know, the government has shut down. It's shut down thanks to the Democrat Party's insistence that illegal aliens get health care and other costly demands. That's right. Most of the Senate Democrats voted no on a continuing resolution because they refused to support it unless portions of the One Big Beautiful Bill were repealed. Portions that eliminated waste, fraud, and abuse in our healthcare systems being used by illegal aliens. Right? It's yet another example of their America Last agenda, as outlined here by Vice President J.D. Vance.
Let's step back for a second, because I think it's important for the American people to realize that the far left faction of Senate Democrats shut down the government because we wouldn't give them hundreds of billions of dollars for health care benefits for illegal aliens. It's actually not even all Senate Democrats. I was really gratified to see that a few of the moderate Senate Democrats voted with Senate Republicans last night to keep the government open. This is basically Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, he's worried he's going to get a primary challenge from AOC, and so he's shutting down the people's government to give in to sort of the left-wing coalition and their party, and it's craziness, and people are going to suffer because of it. I mean, people who benefit from low-income food programs are going to suffer because of this. If you're flying today, I hope, of course, you arrive safely and on time, but you may not arrive on time because the TSA and the air traffic controllers are not getting paid today. Our military is not getting paid today, starting today, and obviously the longer this drags on, the worse that it is for the American people.
Now, it's being correctly called the Schumer shutdown because Chuck Schumer, he's at the center of this whole thing because he can't control the radical left wing of his party, who he is beholden to. You see, Chuck can't allow the government to stay open because then he will get primaried by AOC and could lose his precious Senate seat. So for control and power, he'll screw the American people. Here's the thing. Democrats understand deep down that an America Last agenda is deeply unpopular with pretty much all of us. It is. And actually, 2/3 of Americans say that the Democrats in Congress should not have been forced to shut the federal government if their demands were not met, according to a new national poll from the New York Times. But Democrats realized decades ago that importing millions of illegal aliens and giving them free stuff could be the future of their party, their only path forward, in fact. But they feel the need to lie about what they're doing. And lucky for them, they've got the backing of the mainstream media, who will clear the way for their lies. Here's Senator Chuck Schumer with Joe Scarborough over on MSNBC.
Most important, we need to clear this up because this is the lie that Republicans are using to try to confuse their base, lie to their base, lie to the American people. Talk about the claim that Democrats are shutting down the government to give illegal immigrants health care benefits.
Yep, Joe, you were right on the money. It's a total, absolute effing lie. And why are they doing it? You talked about clicks and emotion. That's some of the reason, but I'll tell you the real reason. They're afraid of the truth.
Are we? I don't think so. The grift is unbelievable. Let's take a moment and do one thing that they don't do very often. Look at the facts. How about that? The facts are important. On your screen, we're going to pull up the Democrat proposal for what they wanted in exchange for passing the continuing resolution. It demands, quote, a repeal of health subtitle changes. Oh, what were those changes that they were referencing? Well, let me tell you about that. The changes dealt with a bunch of things, like alien Medicaid eligibility, that they wanted repealed. The text from OBBB, the One Big Beautiful Bill, that clawed back funds used for illegal aliens and Medicaid, your tax dollars. They're being used for people who were in the country illegally. That's what that says right there, black and white. Democrats want it to continue, so much so, in fact, they're willing to shut the government down. That's the fact. Joe Scarborough knows that. Chuck Schumer certainly knows that. And they're counting on the pundits to cover for them, while people like Speaker Mike Johnson have to try to set the record straight over and over again, like he is here with Chicken Noodle News' Caitlin Collins. Listen.
You're saying they want to give free health care to people who are in the United States illegally.
That is exactly what the effect will be.
But when I looked at it, there's a little nuance because they want to undo changes that y'all made, narrowing who is eligible to get that. Those are people who are refugee seekers, asylum seekers. They're not technically people who are here illegally, just cross the border.
No, this is exactly what will happen. And Maxine Waters admitted, I think, accidentally today on the House steps, they want to give health care to everybody.
But Maxine Waters is not in charge. She's not the one. She didn't write
She's
this
one of the
proposal.
senior leaders in the House. And everybody should Google it and read their counter proposal
yourself. But you see
yourself.
my point, right? You're making this argument that they want to just give health care to everyone who's here illegally. This is not for people who cross the border and don't have paperwork. These are people who have temporary protected status, right?
No, absolutely what will happen if that counter proposal was enacted is illegal aliens would be paid for. American taxpayers, hard-earned dollars, would be paying for benefits for illegal aliens again. We're not doing that.
But it's against federal law for people who are here illegally to get
Yes, and that's why our reforms are so important to enforce all that. What the important thing to remember is what's happening
I didn't see that in the Democratic proposal that people who are here illegally
no,
should get
because
healthcare.
they don't have the level of specification that we had in our bill. It will unwind that, and all those things that the CBO just verified will be reversed. We can't afford to do that.
But you see my point, that there's nuance
I don't
in
see
the
your
argument
point.
that you're making, right?
No, that is a red herring in this debate.
Yeah, red herring in this debate. Of course it is. They're following the Democrat talking points, as Caitlin Collins almost always does. Representative Maxine Waters, as crazy as ever, has been in the game so long she's letting the mask slip along with her mind. Even while she's mad at being held accountable for her views. Listen to this. Go, Maxine, go.
So you're good with the government shutdown, even if it means giving health care to people who aren't American citizens?
Well, that's what you're pushing on. What you're trying to do is you're standing here and you're trying to make me say that somehow we're going to put non-citizens over Americans. Quit it. Stop it. This is the kind of journalism we don't need.
No, I'm just
You're divisive. No, you're not.
Yeah, no,
you're being divisive. No, please. You don't need to ask that question. You're just trying to get controversy here. You're not going to get it from me. We want to save health care for all people. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Appreciate it.
Well, there you have it. Obviously, they don't want to answer the questions. 61% of swing state voters said President Joe Biden bears at least some responsibility for the migrant surge at the southern border. We know that, of course. Also in those states, voters trust Trump more than they ever did Biden to handle immigration, and across the country now by 22 points. 22 points. There's a reason for that. Now, hold that thought. Because the shutdown, we're only in the second day here. How long will it drag on? Donald Trump has his knife out. They're going to start cutting things because they can. Writing the size of government because they can. And the people are going to lose their jobs. Yes, they are. I'll be back with more after this. All right, so the America Last strategy, which is what this is. And look, again, the only reason Chuck Schumer is doing this, the only reason, is because for political power. You see, if he didn't go along with the rest of the Democrats, and most of the Democrats, because 3 didn't go along. Senator Maestro Cortez of Nevada said no. Of course, Fetterman said no, and so did Angus King of Maine. They all said no to this idea and voted with the Republicans because they know it makes no sense what's happening here. But Chuck Schumer had to, because if not, AOC is going to primary him for that Senate seat in New York. There's no question about it. She has the money. She has the backing. She has the support of people, which is bizarre. That anybody would trust her to do anything. Have you seen her district in Queens? Come on now. Or is it the Bronx? Whichever. It's horrible. The America Last strategy, turning voters away. Like Professor Alan Dershowitz, a lifelong Democrat who says, enough is enough. Listen to this.
I'm going to be supporting the Republicans in the midterm election. I'm hoping that the Republicans maintain control both of the House and the Senate. The last thing I want is Chuck Schumer to be head of the Senate, or Liz Warren to be chairperson of a committee, or AOC to be chairperson of a committee. The Democrats have not only lost my votes, but they have made me an enemy, essentially, by how they've moved away from American values, Israeli values, and values of decency. So I'm not only no longer a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, but I am a very anti-Democrat. I'm against the Democratic Party. I will do anything to see Mamdani defeated.
To do anything to see Mamdani defeated? I'm an anti-Democrat. An anti-Democrat, he says. I like that. I think more and more people are coming to that conclusion. Same as Alan Dershowitz. Why wouldn't they? It's not hard to. When Democrats make stupid decisions in the name of virtue signaling, which is all this is. How about the now former Des Moines school superintendent Ian Roberts? I can't get past this guy. An all-Democrat school board run, by the way, by Michelle Obama's former chief of staff picked this guy as its new school superintendent, put him in charge of 30,000 kids, gave him a $300,000 plus salary, plus all the perks. And then it turns out he was never in the country illegally. He was never in the country legally, I mean. He didn't have the authorization to be here. He is a criminal, and he had previous charges involving guns, making it all the worse. He overstayed his visa in 1999, given a final notice of removal by an immigration judge in 2024. Like I said, previous crimes of gun possession, illegal. And when they arrested him, he had a loaded Glock. A loaded Glock in his car, along with $3,000 in cash. Now, the cash I don't care much about, but the Glock, come on. Nice choice, Iowa. Nice choice, lefties. A lot of questions that need to be answered. You know, and it's weird because I hear that story, and the Democrats right now say, well, you know, illegals are not allowed to get Medicaid and Medicare. That's not legal. It's not legal for an illegal alien to be in charge of 30,000 kids in Iowa either. It's not legal for that same illegal alien to have a fully loaded Glock, but somehow it happens. Oh, and by the way, he's been voting in Maryland since 2012. Did I mention that? Most recently, apparently, in April of this year. It's not legal for illegals to vote in elections. No kidding. And yet somehow it happened with this very high-profile person. But the Democrats say, oh, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen, Steve. That doesn't happen. Well, it does happen, clown. A lot of questions that need to be answered, like the ones posed by former DHS Secretary Chad Wolf. How about these? Listen.
And obviously the school district did not do their due diligence. He has a criminal record as well. So clearly they didn't do any type of background investigation. The amazing part here is he has no work authorization. So when they enter this individual's information into their system in order to get paid, to pay taxes and the like, all sorts of red flags should have been prompted there. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they say, to see how this individual, did he use an alias? How did this come about? And I think it begged the further question of the amount of illegal aliens that are here in the United States, working in everyday jobs and the like. And some of them, like this individual who has a possession charge, has other criminal acts on their record, and to be so close to school children, right? To be part of the education system there in Des Moines is really troubling.
Yeah, it certainly is. This is where virtue signaling gets you. When your party tells you nothing is more important than race, how somebody looks, that's the most important thing. That's the most important qualifying trait. But you know, it's also just as troubling. Roberts last voted, like I said, in Maryland 2025, April this year. That's a pretty neat trick since he's an illegal, not allowed to vote, and he was living, I assume, in Iowa where he worked. Another big problem. So he's voting in Maryland, living in Iowa. All of it's illegal, every bit of it. Listen.
Well, they always say this never happens, and then it happens.
Delegate Matt Morgan says non-citizens voting in Maryland elections has long worried Republican lawmakers.
The state board election really never cleans its voter rolls. So there could be thousands of people on here. We have no idea.
Following a state on
Thousands of people. They have no idea. Well done, Maryland. So it's illegal for him to vote, but he did, like thousands apparently have been doing in Maryland. It's the thing Democrats assure us never happens. Oh, that never happens. Nobody cheats. Nobody lies. Nobody steals. Crime is down. Elections are perfect, please. These people need to check their meds. Almost, it's like the illegals driving commercial vehicles. Oh, that doesn't happen. Yet Oklahoma's just arrested 120 illegals driving 18-wheelers. Yeah, the Oklahoma Highway Patrol arrested 120 people in our country illegally during a 3-day operation on I-40. 3 days is all it took. 120 arrests, driving 80,000 pounds down the highway. 90 of them had CDLs, commercial driver's licenses from California, New York, Pennsylvania, Illinois, you name it, they got it from these liberal states. And 1 in 4 of the people they stopped were here illegally. 1 in 4. Folks, there's a reason that the majority of people don't want the Democrats in charge, because their policies are terrible for you, for me, for everyone. That's why they're losing support. Whether it's Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton saying, oh, we don't want people in this country, or John Kerry telling you terrible things. And then Dershowitz saying, look, we need a way out. We're done here. Anti-Democrats. A lot more to cover. Don't go anywhere. Well, the major automakers are really in a panic because the EV subsidies are going away. Yeah, they really are in a panic. EV subsidies going away, most of them at the end of the year, because of the one big beautiful bill. So what are the car makers doing? They're scrambling, begging for it to be put back in. Maybe that's part of the shutdown we're dealing with. Maybe that's one of the issues they're trying to fight back on. They want to enlist dealers in programs that would effectively extend the $7,500 EV tax credit, help secure buyers before it sunsets. Maybe it's coming down sooner than I thought. Maybe it's coming down sooner. Maybe it just did at the end of the fiscal year. Ford, General Motors launched programs for their dealerships in which the company's financing arms make down payments on EVs. Yeah. So these tax credits, you know, a lot of these companies survive on tax credits. It's true, by the way. A lot of these companies survive on tax credits, and therefore, without them, they don't survive. But let me just explain to you quite clearly. If your plan is to have a tax credit, well, that's not really a business plan. That's hoping that you get enough people on your side of the aisle to vote in favor of you again. All right, I got something new for you here this week. We're going to get Ivy to talk about this a little bit later in the next couple of days. Ivy went out and did a bunch of research. She's very much into health and making sure we eat the right things, do the right things, exercise, do all of these different things, right? So she went and found a vitamin company. She said, this is the one I want. Victory Nutrition International. I said, why? She said, because they've got all the studies backing what they've done. So if you're tired of taking vitamins that don't seem to work, Protovite, a breakthrough liquid formula designed to absorb quickly so your body actually uses it. When we say multivitamin, we mean it. Over 100 nutrients, including B vitamins, amino acids, zinc, plant extracts. You get daily support for energy, focus, immune health, only from Victory Nutrition International. It's nutrition that gets in. And you can start your mornings with Protovite and feel the difference. You can get 20% off today, by the way. Ivy put this deal together. VNI.life/Gruber. Yes, they're a new partner of ours. Glad to have them on board. Welcome to VNI. We'll have somebody on from their company at some point to explain all the studies they did to show why their vitamins are better than anybody else's. Save 20% today. If you take vitamins, here's a deal for you. VNI.life/Gruber. That's your promo code Gruber. I'll be right back. Let me tell you some of the things that are happening already here on day 2 of the shutdown, all right? $18 billion that was on its way to New York City frozen, infrastructure projects. Russ Vought said that. $8 billion that were supposed to be going to some Green New Deal mess, stopped, canceled. This is going on all the time right now. The government right now, Donald Trump has some special opportunities to remove wasteful spending, trim down government. And for the fact, they're talking about how they weren't giving medical care. The Democrats are saying they were not allowing medical care to go to illegals. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. And the Democrats are in the hot seat. Why? Because Obamacare premiums are about to skyrocket. And the reason for that is all these COVID subsidies about to go away. A real hard slap in the face for people. Let's see, South Dakota up 235%, West Virginia 387% increase in premiums. I mean, just really scary stuff. Join me now. Grover Norquist is here, the president of Americans for Tax Reform. We'll see his scoreboard is anything like mine. Grover, good morning. Welcome to you.
Good morning, Steve. Good to be with you.
So, I mean, I'm seeing all of these things where $18 billion here, no. $8 billion there, no. The federal workforce could get trimmed in a way we have not seen ever in my lifetime to right-size it. That's the term people use, right? Let's right-size the government. And I'm not taking pleasure in people losing their jobs. But our government is way too big, way too many layers of people, right or wrong.
Correct. And something needs to be done about it. The Democrats always like to complain about the deficit, and their answer is raise taxes. Of course, they create the deficit by spending too much money. We will be reducing the spending, not raising taxes.
Exactly. But as I've been telling people, and I've been saying this for a while, Chuck Schumer's over a barrel here. They've got him. They being the radical leftists that want to spend all this money and the progressives, the socialists, the communists, frankly. Because if he doesn't do exactly as they say and shut down the government and do these things, AOC is going to primary him in New York. And there's a very good chance she would win and defeat him before he ever got his Senate seat back. It's a matter of political power and survival, from what I can tell. What do you say?
He's like the hostage in a bank robbery. Back 7, shouting out orders to the police, but there's somebody with a gun at his head telling him what to say. 7 months ago.
That's a great analogy, by the way. That's really good. Anyhow, go ahead.
Well, but we know it's true because back 7 months ago, Schumer said publicly, guys, you want to have fellow Democrats, you want to have a shutdown, you want to do something big and bold, and let me tell you why this will not help your cause, our cause of big government, because you will hand over to President Trump and to Mr. Vogt, the head of the Office of Management and Budget, control of spending. If money isn't appropriated for something, those contracts are void. They can be canceled. People can be let go. Then try and put that back in the bottle later. This is a big mistake. Don't do it. 7 months ago, Schumer won that argument. Same argument this time around. Schumer, instead of being in front of the lynch mob going, don't do this, this is the wrong thing to do, he's turned around and decided to storm the jail and announce, I'm the leader of this mob. Because, as you say, not only would he possibly be primaried, he would lose his leadership position before he has to get reelected. And he has promised a number of prominent Democrats, if you run for the Senate, I'll make sure no pesky, crazy leftists run against you. I'll help you raise money. We'll get you elected. He can't do that because people are running for the Senate primary as Democrats against Schumer. So he has to pretend to support all of this, even though, as he's told everybody, he knows it's a bad idea. And they know they're lying when they say that they're not giving money to illegal aliens.
And of course they are.
And the massive subsidies they're giving out. They know what they're doing. They got caught, and they're just in a very difficult position.
You know what the worst part for Chuck is? Here's the worst part for Chuck. They're going to primary him anyway. They are. I think they're going to primary him anyway because he's not extreme enough.
In the movies, they often shoot the hostages anyway.
Exactly. And the hostages, you can't open the vault? Well, we'll move on to the next person, next down the line, which will be the secretary, which makes sense that AOC would be the secretary in charge. Anyhow, what are some of the things? Okay, let's talk about some of the constructive things. $18 billion, no. $8 billion, no. Are there things on the list that you would say, okay, we have an opportunity here? What are some of the things that you would like to see prioritized as reductions in spending?
Well, this is an opportunity to end some of the contracts for government spending that are not terribly useful because they will be over. The other team would have to go get Congress to put it in through the House and through the Senate and get the president to ever put them back again. These are very, very real terminations. And we've had quite a number of federal employees say, okay, I'm going to take early retirement. They give me a little extra pay and I go away. There are others who didn't take that opportunity, who, frankly, we have 200,000 too many people in the civilian wing of the Defense Department, and that's from the Comptroller of Defense, not some liberal critic. At the end of the Cold War, we downsized the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, not the bureaucracy, and that needs to be brought down. Imagine if the Defense Department has these challenges, where we are in other departments that just piled up. As Obama went out, he put thousands of people into the Justice Department, chosen for being left-wing activists, not lawyers. So all of this stuff, we need to step apart and simply reduce the size and scope of government. What should have been done over a 30-year period is going to be done in a shorter period.
So the Democrats have another problem, if I'm reading the New York Times polling right. 2/3 of Americans, 65%, said they didn't want the Democrats, specifically the Democrats, to shut down the government. That was in the New York Times. They're already on the wrong end of this deal. So how long do they let this go on? How long do they let Chuck Vaught and others continue to trim back on all their pet projects?
Well, they were surprised that they're getting blamed, because they remember back to when Gingrich in 1995 and Bob Dole. Gingrich got the House to pass a budget going through the regular committee process. Bob Dole in the Senate got the Republicans to pass a budget. Then they got together. Then they put together a real budget. They handed it to Clinton, who never wrote a budget, who never outlined a budget, who never did any work at all. He vetoes the prepared budget that came through Congress. And all three networks said, Republicans close the government, even though the Republicans had actually put forward a budget and done all the work. And Clinton just sat there and said no at the end of the day without having an alternative budget or anything. They're used, but the three networks no longer say at 7 o'clock we'll tell you what to think, at 11 o'clock we'll tell you what to think, and you have no other alternative sources of information.
Lots of sources like this one. Yeah, they're in real trouble. I got to leave it there, Grover.
Yeah.
Look, we're here
You are
talking
the problem
about
with the Democrats.
Yeah, we tell the truth. We pull back the curtain and say, wait a second, here's the truth. We've got it in writing. Grover, we're going to keep an eye on this and keep you on speed dial, because the more things that get cut, the bigger your smile gets. Grover Norquist, thank you for being here.
Good to be with you.
Good to see you. We'll take a break and be right back. All right, so if you go back and if people actually read, they would find that Franklin Roosevelt was a huge opponent of public sector unions. That they're a terrible idea because basically they're negotiating with house money, with your money, and promising votes to politicians who then can give them the money. It's a terrible idea. And my next guest is a guy who's fought against bad practices in unions his entire professional career. Mark Mix is the president of the committee and foundation, National Right to Work Committee, 2.8 million member public policy organization. Also serves as the president of the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. Mark, nice to see you, my friend.
Steve, it's good to be with you. Thanks for the opportunity. Always news to talk about. I know you're always talking about the news and what's important, but thanks for talking about this topic.
Big stuff. Well, this is a big win. I look at it and I go, well, look at that. In fact, I have to be honest, I'm rarely surprised by headlines these days. I'm like, really? The Federal Bureau of Prisons has ended collective bargaining. To me, I'm like, really? Let's get Mark on the program. So tell us what has happened here, what has transpired.
Yeah, Steve, this is really an interesting time. I mean, President Trump and his administration has talked very seriously about the power of organized labor when it comes to running the government. And to your point on the intro, Franklin Roosevelt gave us a warning back in 1937 when he said, you can't unionize government employees. It's not the same as the private sector. There's problems in the private sector too, Steve. But to your point, this is house money. The politicians are negotiating with people that are giving them money to get elected. And it's turned into a real disaster for states like Wisconsin, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Illinois. Wisconsin's the one state that did something about it. They limited dramatically the power of government unions, and the taxpayers there have saved over $30 billion since Scott Walker did that back in 2011, I think it was.
Yeah,
so this debate about...
The way the scam works is pretty simple. Governor, listen, I've got 30,000 people in my union. We need a bump in pay from the state. If you do that, my union is going to turn out and support you on election day. I mean, that's pretty simply how it works in a nutshell. There it is. They're buying votes with taxpayer dollars, right?
Yeah, indeed. And so now when we look at the Federal Bureau of Prisons, what's going on here is the president looked at it and said, look, we're just not going to negotiate. And this is a follow-up to an executive order he issued back in March saying that he was going to use executive branch authority, Article 2 authority, to basically limit the scope and the power of organized labor when it comes to the federal executive branch of government. This executive order basically said, we're going to use national security profiles for these agencies, and we're going to use other means to basically reduce the power of the government monopoly over these federal employees. And obviously, Steve, there's lots of litigation, but this one's kind of neat because what happened here is he just said, look, we're not going to negotiate anymore. The union president said, well, this is a really bad idea because morale is so low and conditions are so bad. But I don't think the union official realizes that they're talking about a period from the 4 years of the Biden administration that have put him in this position where things are so bad that this is a bad idea to stop unionization. It's a good idea to take control of the federal government again and have elected officials like a president who's the only person under Article 2 that we can hold accountable for the actions of the federal bureaucracy when it comes to these agencies. And basically he's saying we're going to run the business a little different than what's happened since 1937 when Roosevelt admitted that it was a bad idea to unionize government employees.
Yeah. With the government shutdown, I don't know how this would apply to unions and different things, but I know that the president has unique abilities right now to trim the federal government. First of all, let me back up the Bureau of Prisons. This happened because the Federal Bureau of Prisons announcing that it was ending its union contract with the American Federation of Government Employees effective immediately. I don't have a date on this. When did this happen?
Yeah, it just happened this last week.
All right, so last Thursday, right? A week ago. So can they continue to do this? Can they find other places where you've got collective bargaining and government say, we terminate that contract? Can they do that?
Well, I think they're going to try. And the executive order that President Trump signed back in March covered about 75% of the federal bureaucracy.
Right.
Obviously, every president since Jimmy Carter, when they imposed government unionism on the federal government back in 1978 with the Federal Labor Relations Act, has done this. They've used their executive branch power to say these particular agencies are no longer subject to bargaining because of the profile of the agency or the work that they do. And Steve, this is a bigger debate about the president's authority over Article 2, the Article 2 branch of government. I mean, does the president have the authority to run the government that's under his responsibility? He's the chief executive officer of the federal government, and so he needs to have the power to make changes that help effectively deliver the product that the federal government's supposed to deliver. So there's obviously a case right now, Trump versus the National Treasury Unions, Employees Union versus Trump. I think there's 6 or 7 lawsuits. The farthest one along is in the D.C. Circuit. We just filed an amicus brief upholding and encouraging the court to uphold the executive authority of the president under Article 2. Obviously, there's checks and balances. If Congress says something and the court says it's okay, then the executive branch can be limited in that way. But there is a provision here, and the president's used it with his executive order, which is going to be challenged, obviously, is the focus of the lawsuit. But can the president say we're going to run the government differently? I think they should be able to. I think others think they should be able to, and I think the court thinks they should be able to in a lot of ways. And the Supreme Court's sending out messages, vibrations that they might support this notion that the president has some kind of authority that blocks the union officials from saying it's our way or the highway.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a big change afoot here. I'd like to tell the folks, if you're in a union right now and you're like, I don't like the way things are going here. Do I have any options, any conversations I can have? They might. If you get a hold of Mark Mix. Mark, how can they find you?
Yeah, that's right. First and foremost, if you're a government employee, you have the right to withhold all of the money that government unions can't force you to pay dues under a Supreme Court case we won. They can find out information about that at our foundation's website, nrtw.org, Steve. If you have questions about your rights in a right-to-work state, you can go to the committee's website, which is nrtwc.org.
nrtw.org or nrtwc.org. If you're in a union, they're forcing you to pay dues, and you're like, I don't want to pay dues. You might not have to. Mark Mix is a guy that has answers for you. Mark, great analysis here. We're going to keep watching this. We're going to follow the lawsuits, and there's a case in front of the Supreme Court that can also impact all of this, of what the president can do and not do. Mark Mix, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Always good to be with you.
Always good to be with you, my friend. All right, we'll take a break and be right back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it now. I'm watching and I'm probably going to get to this. I'm watching a trailer for a new documentary about a woman who got cancer, fighting back against the cancer, but also identifying that the town that she is from has a high propensity of cancer. Interesting doc. I'm going to tell you more about that in the days to come because it's a town very close to where I am. And so I find it fascinating, and it just popped up. I don't know how these things happen. AI, I guess, algorithms, AI, things pop up. Oh, you're in this neighborhood, boom. Geofencing, I don't know. I'd have to get Ivy to sort it out for me, as I'm not that AI intelligent. But I mean, I know enough. We'll figure it out. So if you're a government employee, if you're facing layoff or if you've been laid off or whatever, send me an email. I'd love to get you on the program. Or you can just send me an email, tell me what you think. And what do you guys think about the shutdown? Go to stevegruber.com, send me an email, all right? I read them all. Remarkable, but I do. I take time and I try to read them all and respond to as many as I can, okay? So that's an incredibly important thing. stevegruber.com, click on the email, send me one along, and you'll be connected, and maybe we'll read it here. Tomorrow's Free for All Friday. We'll get you a chance to weigh in on, where are we 3 weeks after the murder of Charlie Kirk? Where are we with violence in America? Where are we with Chuck Schumer? Where are we with the government shutdown? It's all coming tomorrow on Free for All Friday when you can call in and participate in the program. Powered by Patriot Mobile, my great friends. If you're not with Patriot Mobile, you should be. By the way, we've all heard of testosterone in young men drastically less than it was, say, a decade ago. One major study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found healthy 22-year-old men in 2000 had double the testosterone of 22-year-old men today. If you're 30s, 40s, or 50s, you might want to listen up. Mars from the Wellness Company. It's a doctor-formulated nutraceutical designed to restore vitality without synthetic hormones and stimulants. You want to get back on the game, men? Muscle, bone, and, all the good stuff, too? Yeah, Mars from the Wellness Company. twc.health/Gruber. And you want to try this one, man? Hey, get back to the gym. Get tough. twc.health/Gruber. Promo code Gruber, you'll save 10%. Support the people that support this program. I ask you politely. 2 more hours to come of the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be back. always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Yes, it is. And welcome back to it, my friends. Glad to have you here as we continue the conversation. Rolling into another big hour here of the Steve Gruber Show. Who do you want in your foxhole? Honestly, who do you want in that foxhole? It's a big, important question. One you need to answer every day because it might change from day to day. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, talked about this in the last hour. Car companies scrambling to preserve their EV subsidies so they can get more of your tax dollars into their bottom line. Number two, the Affordable Care Act is on the road to where we always told you it would be, trying to create single payer because the premiums have gone wildly higher and will continue to do so. The Affordable Care Act was never affordable. And number three, hundreds of thousands of job cuts. They're coming to the federal government if the Democrats continue to block funding. The Trump administration poised to make permanent cuts if the Dems continue to dig in their heels. That we know. This is a bad look for the left. Again, just proves they support lawlessness at every turn. And in fact, I'll get a couple of comments here. From Michigan, we have Sri Thanedar. He's quite a character. He's in Congress. I think he's been there for 2 terms. He's out this time because even the Democrats, they don't like this one. Bite 5. I think he admits here they cut off conversation and shut the government down intentionally. I'm not sure, but you listen and tell me.
Returning back to Detroit this morning after the Republicans failed to show up in the U.S. House. We got to make sure Americans have the health care that they need. And if that means we got to shut this government down, so be it.
If that gets shut the government down, so be it. That's what he said, isn't it? We're going to shut the government down. Yeah, Shree's never been the brightest of bulb there, has he? You've got that on one side. You've got Caroline Leavitt on the other, nailing the Democrats for shutting the government down. I mean, has it impacted you? It's a serious question. What's it done for you? I don't notice anything at this point. Of course, I live here in my little bubble, right? A lot of us do. We live in our bubble. We go to work. We do our thing. We go to our family. I went to a football game last night, whatever it might be, right? So does it affect you? And if you are affected, I ask again, can you send me an email? What do you think about it? Good? Bad? In Lansing, they avoided the shutdown, just barely. A few days to work it out there. Probably today or tomorrow we should have an actual budget in place for Lansing. But let's hear from Caroline Leavitt, nailing the Democrats for closing the government, all right? Let's hear that.
This government shutdown is no doubt going to impact everyday Americans, and it is the fault of the Democrats that we are in this position. And I know I relayed some programs that will be impacted. The vice president did as well, but I just want to make sure the American public understand what the Democrats have done to our government and our country. 1.3 million active duty troops will work now without pay. Critical food assistance for low-income women, infants, and children will now lapse. No new mothers or children are allowed to join this critical program because of the Democrats' decision to shut down the government. Telehealth services for seniors and in-home treatment options for Medicare patients will now come to an end. Nearly 50,000 members of the United States Coast Guard are going to have to work unpaid. Over 13,000 air traffic controllers will work without pay, as well as TSA agents, which will very likely create flight disruptions, and pay will now stop.
So if you're flying, maybe it's going to impact you. If you're flying today and you're impacted by any of this, I need to know, all right? Please tell me. So enough about the shutdown. I want to go, I actually saw this yesterday, and I have this for you. It's 16-4, Anthony, we're going to go to. The shutdown's not going anywhere, and neither are we. As I shift gears here a little bit, 18 years ago now, 18 years ago, in 2007, Al Gore got a Nobel Prize for something or other. And at his commencement speech, He said the world was about to have a quick and painful death because of climate change, global warming, whatever he called it then. I want you to hear what he had to say, did Al Gore 18 years ago. Listen.
Last September 21st, as the northern hemisphere tilted away from the sun, scientists reported with unprecedented alarm that the North Polar ice cap is, in their words, falling off a cliff. One study estimated that it could be completely gone during summer in less than 22 years. Another new study to be presented by U.S. Navy researchers later this week warns it could happen in as little as 7 years. 7 years from now.
Yeah, that would have made it 2014. The polar ice caps will be gone. In fact, they've grown in the last year. I think they've grown for 2 years. But that does not dissuade these people. The private jet, limo liberals, limousine liberals. It does not dissuade them at all. How do I know? Because John Kerry, that dinosaur who will be fossil fuel soon, had this to say just in the last couple of days.
No polite way to put it. The climate crisis is killing people. It is knowingly, wittingly allowing people to die and infecting them with disease and providing them with air that kills people because we're not willing to take the steps necessary to do what we know we need to do. And every year now, millions of people around this planet are dying because fossil fuel and methane emissions, called greenhouse gas pollution. Those methane emissions and CO2 emissions and nitrous oxide and other emissions are escaping into the atmosphere, being fed by the way in which we continue to choose to fuel our vehicles, propel our vehicles, heat our homes, light our factories.
Do you think that John Kerry, when he flies around in his private jet, he thinks about that? Do you think he heats his home? Does he cool his home? Oh, and let's get to the biggest point here. Millions of people a year are dying from climate change. Millions around the planet. Where? Where are these millions of people dying, John? Where? From disease. We've always had disease, John. The disease is in his mind. Let's be simple and clear about that. The disease is in his mind. Climate change, nobody's buying it. And as the Jeffrey points out, Brazilian mahogany surrounds him there in that library of his. Brazilian mahogany. He should just have a donkey to ride wherever he needs to go. No more Lear jets, no more Gulfstream jets, no more private limousines, no more entourages, no more filet mignon, no more of any of that. No more caviar. He doesn't look well, by the way. He doesn't look well. The world's going to end. Millions are dying. Haven't you heard? Please. Anyhow, I'll take a break. I thought you'd like something different for a minute. I'll be right back.
Patriots.
All right, a little bit of just a quick breaking news story that it happened last night, but I just saw this. 2 Delta planes collided at LaGuardia on the ground in New York last night. Ripped one of the tail wings off one of the Delta jets. That's how hard the collision was. I mean, did tremendous damage to one of the jets. Neither one of them will be in the air, I can tell you that. Flying is getting a little spooky out there, boys and girls. Anyhow, you know what's spooky? The left-wing media. No matter what happens, it wouldn't matter what happened. Donald Trump gets credit for nothing and the blame for everything. Curtis House, managing editor, Newsbusters, with me here this morning. Curtis, glad to have you back on the program. He can do no right. Democrats can do no wrong. But the fact of the matter is people are catching on to 2 things. I saw the polling out of the New York Times saying that 2/3 of Americans said that Democrats should not shut down the government, 2/3. And on a brand new generic ballot, the Republicans are winning by 2 points. The Democrats are not doing well here. Chuck Schumer, and it is his shutdown because he was forced to do it, because if he didn't, AOC would primary him. She probably will anyway. But he's trying to protect his... I really think so. I think she's going to primary him anyway because she can smell it. She can see the old guy. It doesn't have it anymore. What do you think about the media? Is just awful, aren't they?
Well, real quick on the AOC part, I don't know if you saw, she filmed a video walking the halls of the Senate yesterday. So I guess she was getting a look at her new digs. I mean,
yeah,
it's that close to her. She's measuring the drapes, Steve. You know, you're exactly right about that. But no, when it comes to the media, I think it's so insidious what they've been doing with the claim saying that it's not true that Democrats want to provide health care for legal immigrants. It's semantics. It's semantic games. That's what they're doing. They're saying, oh, no. The last administration said these people are allowed to be here, so therefore they're not illegal. When actually, of course, what happened was they came into the country, they were given court dates for like 2034, you know, saying, okay, have fun, we'll see you then. And therefore, by allowing that and being processed by the Alejandro Mayorkas DHS, they were allowed then to tap into all of the generous social safety net programs meant for working class Americans, pregnant women down on their luck. And so, you know, that's how we've seen what's been going on here. But they're saying, no, they're not illegal immigrants. They're just immigrants. And to me, I say, well, that definitely seems like an illegal immigrant to me. And yet, you know, this is how the fact checkers work, Steve. And the reason I go through all that is because it's so insidious. And that is how we got the big tech censorship that we were hit with for all of these years under the previous administration. They would take things that were true and then say that they were false. It was Orwellian in nature, and they're trying to do it again, but the American people are not buying it because the Democrats are, as you've explained here, dialing everything up to a 12 out of 10. And the American people are like, what? No.
Always dialing up to a 12 out of a 10. Here's the thing. They said, well, it can't happen. It's not legal for them to get these benefits. Well, it's not legal for an illegal alien with a gun conviction to become the superintendent in Des Moines, Iowa. But these things can happen, apparently. It's not legal for that same guy to vote in Maryland elections, including April of this year, even though he lives in Iowa and he's voting illegally in Maryland. I mean, crazy things happen, Curtis. And it's funny because you can show them these things all the time. This was just an easy example. This is just easy. I mean, here's a criminal who has a final deportation order from, 18 months ago, something like that. And here he is as the superintendent of the biggest school district in Iowa, 30,000 kids. Oh, that can't happen. Illegals can't vote. That would never happen. Illegals can't get benefits from the government. That'll never happen. Oh, come on.
My favorite thing, Steve, is when they do that, they if they do acknowledge it, what they then do is they say, it's happening, but it's not really happening. It's isolated examples, and therefore we should make no broader conclusions about what this means. And then if you get them to that point, they'll say it's happening, and therefore it is good. It's like almost like the stages of grief.
Alternatively, yeah, but Trump's president, so it's happening under the Trump administration. What? I mean, there's that card too. Don't forget that one. It's an important one in their deck.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and so this entire thing over the shutdown is completely ridiculous. And then if you just want to talk straight up about Obamacare subsidies, once again, this is one of those things that was only meant to be temporary because of the pandemic. You create government dependency, and it's hard to turn away from that. I've not really seen that in the media coverage, pointing out that what we're talking about in terms of these subsidies is for people that are hundreds of a percent above the poverty line still receiving Obamacare subsidies. Now, if you think about that, let's just say it's 300 or 400% above the poverty line, still getting Obamacare subsidies. You're saying, wow, that's a really good deal, A, if you're in for that sort of thing. And B, what does that say about the state of the American healthcare system and the stability of the Affordable Care Act if the Democrats are fighting so hard for people that far above the poverty line to still be receiving subsidies? Once again, the left does not want to engage in this. And what I've noticed is a tell that they know that the Democrats caused this, Steve. Last night and this morning, a lot of the coverage is just saying, well, both sides are engaging in finger pointing. I'm old enough to remember previous shutdowns where it was entirely blaming Republicans. They tried to do that late last week and earlier this week, but I think they've realized that it's not working. And as you said at the onset here, this
is failing. And when you've got three Democrats, this is where their problem also lies, Curtis. Three Democrats crossed the line to vote with Republicans to begin with, from Arizona, Pennsylvania, and Maine. So you've got a problem already because you've got cracks in the armor of Democrats saying, wait a second, this isn't right. And I think they're in real trouble. Their PR department's in real trouble. And I think AOC capitalizes on this and primaries Schumer anyway. That's what I think is going to happen. She's going after him anyway. And that's why she's over there measuring the curtains. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, and they want to be able to play the victim. You know, if Russ Vogt goes through with these layoffs, they are going to be saying, no, they did this to you. But deep down, they want this to happen. They want people to lose their jobs so they can turn around and say, no, look what these people did to you. So
but the problem with that is, though, Curtis, most of those people, a good portion of it, certainly inside the Beltway, they're Democrat voters anyway. It makes no difference in the outcome. Curtis Houck, managing editor, Newsbusters. Always good to see you, my friend. Thank you.
No problem.
There you have it. It's just ridiculous. Breaking news out of the UK, tragic news. I'll have that for you after the break. All right, I've got breaking news out of the UK now. There was an attack, North Manchester, at a synagogue. Sound familiar? It's getting all too predictable, isn't it? 2 people dead, several more hospitalized after the attacker drove through a crowd and then began stabbing people. 9:31 a.m. local time. Paramedics, emergency services were called. Armed police arrived, shot the suspect dead. So at least we got that going for us. Police probing the suspected terror attack after declaring the incident as Plato, which is the UK's national response plan for a marauding terrorist attack. It's a multi-agency protocol for responding to incidents like an armed terrorist attack, which this clearly was. A large number of people worshiping at the synagogue at the time because it was the end of Yom Kippur, the holiest day for the Jewish faith. So an attack on the synagogue on Yom Kippur. I don't have to look for a motive. I've got the motive. When I have the suspect's name, I will confirm it for you. It's all too predictable now, isn't it? All too predictable as it just continues on. All right. Bitcoin took a bit of a surge yesterday. Pretty cool, actually. Bitcoin taking surge as my Bitcoin's been a little bit lax lately. It's backed up to 118.7 after being as low as 108, up $10,000 a coin. And that's, you know, are you involved with crypto? Because elites have gotten rich off that. Well, most of us weren't involved, but I'm involved now. What about you? Block Trust IRA, changing the approach to it all, bringing the crypto opportunity to real Americans just like you. Block Trust IRA. Pushing President Trump's America First economic plan. Their Animus AI trading platform, it runs 24/7. It beats old school strategies, helps people like you build serious wealth. It's the #1 crypto tech platform by Bitcoin Magazine, and right now you can get $2,500 in bonus crypto. I don't care if you're a teacher, a truck driver, you're retired, doesn't matter. Get up to $2,500 in bonus crypto right now. How do you do it? Well, you start by going to SteveGruberCrypto.com. SteveGruberCrypto.com. Get on board. And then send me some feedback. Tell me how it's working for you at SteveGruber.com. SteveGruberCrypto.com to get started. All right, so American wellness. It's an important thing, right? My next guest, Jennifer Ghilardi, easy for me to say this morning, Senior Policy Analyst for Restoring American Wellness at the Heritage Foundation's DeVos Center. Joining me now, Jennifer, welcome to the program.
Thanks, good morning.
Good to have you here. So, toxic twins, you know, I had a friend of mine who died last year as a farmer, was around Roundup for years and years. I can't say that that's what caused his death, but he was around pesticides of all sorts as a farmer growing corn and beans and wheat and all that. So you've got this liability shield, but you've also got liability shields for big pharma. Why do these big corporations get to act with impunity and never have to pay up if they're doing something they know is dangerous, potentially dangerous? Why are they given a pass?
Well, it's one of the biggest profit makers for companies like Bayer, who owns both pharmaceutical products and agricultural chemical products. So there hasn't been a liability shield yet for pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, anything that's used in agricultural production. But there is that for vaccines, as you mentioned, for the pharmaceutical companies back in 1986. I'm not sure if your viewers are aware, but vaccine manufacturers were awarded legal protections through the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. And essentially, that created a fund or a compensation program as an alternative remedy to judicial action, which is just code for you cannot sue pharmaceutical companies if something goes wrong after a vaccine. They claim a lot of the times that how are we supposed to have a budget or do research and development for new drugs and new vaccines if we're sued kind of out the wazoo for every time something goes wrong. So they created this compensation program, but everybody who's tried to use it says it's really of no worth.
Well, there's several things here. I'd like to dive in and unpack a couple of things here because there's some things that people need to understand. First of all, we are a litigious country. We're a litigious society. So I think there are far too many lawsuits, and there should be tort reform in this country, which would change some of these problems. But also, pharmaceuticals, Big Pharma, is the #1 supporter of television programming, especially news in this country. Also an important fact to figure in when you're looking at these things and go, oh, well, they pay for NBC and CBS and ABC. They fund the bills. These are all very important things, aren't they? When you look at the big picture and say, look, Dow Corning, bankrupted for breast implants that were later proven to be not the problem. Bankrupted, sued into oblivion by lawyers. That's a fact. Destroyed that company was, never to come back. So you've got a problem with too many lawyers with too many frivolous lawsuits that sometimes win, and then you've got big companies that have too much money and power that try to insulate themselves against any lawsuits. I think these are all problems.
Yes. Well, you have to allow citizens their right to due process and their right to, if they indeed were injured, like your friend, if it can be proven. So part of what Kennedy is calling for is this kind of gold standard science to make sure that we can draw the appropriate conclusions around pesticides, around vaccines. I think tort reform is important as well. But you also mentioned a very important point, which most of the advertising, it doesn't take a genius when you watch a football game or any news show is like brought to you by Pfizer, brought to you by Moderna. Like it is, I don't have a television, and every time I watch one, I'm always astonished at how many pharmaceutical commercials there are. And they've turned them into these almost song and dance shows, very, very theatrical productions, making pharmaceuticals look glorious. And even worse is it's not so much to get to the consumer, which that's part of it, but it is kind of to silence the media in coming out with reports against pharmaceutical companies. So it's almost like a payoff. It's a bribe, really.
And yet, if Donald Trump comes out and says, look, there might be a problem with Tylenol, my God, I'll see pregnant women on TikTok taking Tylenol with a big glass of water. I mean, if Donald Trump came out today and said, smoking is dangerous, they'd be ripping filters off Pall Malls by the end of the day and making videos and smoking them one after another. It's bizarre.
Well, if he said smoking is good for you, they would start. Yeah, it's like if he said
no. If he said smoking was bad for you, they would smoke. It wouldn't matter what he said. They'll do the opposite. They will do the opposite, right? And look, Tylenol themselves said back in 2017 in tweets, it's not approved for use by pregnant women. And so it's just silly stuff. Go ahead.
It's approved, but it was cautioned against it. And, Trump in his very simple language says, Tylenol, it's bad. Don't do it. Don't take it. But then you had Oz come out and with a more nuance. He said, we're not saying never take it. He's saying be judicious, talk to your doctor, take it only if it's necessary. But this would be wisdom with any drug. You don't want to just be popping things willy-nilly. Everything has a side effect. Every kind of drug, caffeine,
That's exactly
alcohol,
right. In fact,
we use daily.
every drug that's ever been taken off the market was at one time deemed safe and effective. Everyone that's been removed from purchase because it's no longer safe or effective. I mean, this happens routinely, doesn't it?
It does. And common sense would tell you, just don't. I'm trying to think of a nicer way, but it's early in the morning and my brain is don't be an idiot. Don't just take these things willy-nilly. I mean, I think we've become very cavalier in our use of pharmaceuticals. Well, I'm sad, I'll take an antidepressant. And there's not enough we need to restore the doctor-patient relationship where doctors have time with their patients to say, hey, here's a side effect, and pull out that insert in a drug or a pharmaceutical product like that came with the COVID vaccines that I doubt anyone ever read, that has this list of side effects that is this long. And we need to be transparent. I think Kennedy's doing a really good job, and all of his cohorts at the FDA, NIH.
Which, by the way, brings me back to one more thing that I'm sorry, it made me chuckle, but you make me think about it. Who is Donald Trump and the government to tell me whether or not I should take Tylenol? That's terrible. Take the COVID vaccine. Oh, yeah. Where do I get it?
I know. I know.
I'm sorry.
The hypocrisy is stunning. It is quite stunning.
People are so hyper partisan, some of them. It's just ridiculous. And it's frightening, and it creates problems. So I'll give you the last word here. What should be done? How should Big Pharma be handled, in your opinion, and Big Ag, when it comes to liability and people having, real problems that can find resolution?
It's a tricky subject. One thing we won't say is ban products. We're not going to say, no one's asking to come out and say ban glyphosate, ban pesticides. What we're asking for is informed consent across the board with every product, with a pharmaceutical, and the ability to label. The way this pesticide shield, they're kind of working it. It's not a direct, it's kind of working through the EPA, and that pesticides companies won't be able to change the labeling unless the EPA changes its kind of standards. And so you don't have local control. States don't have local control. It's a little convoluted, but we're calling for just transparency.
There you go. Good seeing you today. These are good topics that are important. And look, with everything going on, sometimes we miss these important topics, Jennifer, and thank you for bringing these to our attention.
My pleasure, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. Jennifer Gallardi. See, I can say it. I can. Senior Policy Analyst, Restoring America Wellness at the Heritage Foundation's DeVos Center. Coming up, we're going to talk more about farmers and how they are being challenged by Chinese imports and more after this. All right. Look, farmers have it's hard enough being a farmer. I'm sure. I grew up around farmers. I've never actually been a farmer, but I've spent a lot of time on farms and ranches in my life, hunting and fishing and doing different things and talking to folks and having neighbors that were in the field. And one of the things that always struck me as odd is when those on the left say, well, we need to raise taxes on these people. They're worth millions of dollars. Well, they've got land, but they might not have any cash flow. Sure, you can turn all their land into subdivisions. I'm not sure who's going to feed the people that live in those subdivisions if you keep getting rid of farms, but hey, I'm crazy that way. My next guest, Brian Reisinger. He is the author of Land Rich, Cash Poor, My Family's Hope and Untold Story of the Disappearing American Farmer. Brian, welcome back.
Good to be with you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
All right, you're a former GOP strategist, rural policy expert. So here's the question. China is weaponizing its ag imports to target Trump and U.S. farmers. They're really, and I listen to an ag report. We have it airs here. One of the first things we do every day here on this program is an ag report for the Midwest. What are you seeing? I see that China's not buying beans. They're buying it from South America, one of the things I keep hearing. And it's a problem because we've got not our biggest crop ever, but a substantial crop of beans and corn, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And thank you for shedding light on these issues. You're putting your finger right on the button here, which is that China has long been an adversary to the American farmer, and this is the latest. This snub, the way that they're weaponizing and turning away from American farmers who are growing soybeans and depend on selling them to China, this is the latest step. They've been buying up our farmland. They've been for a long time buying up a lot of agricultural products and then suddenly dumping them. They've been an unreliable buyer, and that depresses the price, all kinds of unfair trade practices. So this is the latest assault on the American farmer from China.
Yeah. Companies like Smithfield have always bothered me. Smithfield, I think, was bought by the Chinese about 2004. I'm not going to take a quiz on that date, but I think it's about that time. Smithfield, one of the biggest meat packers in America. I mean, today in America, somewhere between 25% and 50%, 1/4 and 1/2 of all the pigs alive in America are owned by Chinese companies and Chinese processors. So a company like Smithfield will own the hogs, pack the hogs, and so on and so forth. Why do we allow that? Why do we allow them to come in? Because if they just shut it down, they'd suffer. China doesn't care. They're okay to suffer as long as they can hurt America, I believe. Look, we're in an asymmetrical war with China. Whether we realize it or not, they know it. In agriculture, in politics, and in the military, all of it. What can we do to put ourselves back to where we belong as American farmers? Stop importing all this stuff from South America and Vietnam and every place else. Buy American. It's never been more important than when it comes to buying food, right or wrong?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges we have is that in China, let's say you have an LLC coming to America to buy farmland, that LLC might tie right back to the Chinese Communist Party in a way that it wouldn't here in America. So
they
when
all
you talk
do.
about
It's required.
Yeah, exactly. So that's part of what you're talking about, asymmetrical warfare. One of the best things that we can do is, number one, drive harder bargains around trade deals. Tariffs are part of that. Negotiate harder deals. American farmer does need us to reach some kind of an agreement with China, but we need China to get in line and be fair and to stop the unfair trade practices. But the other thing we can do, Steve, is we can really diversify. And part of that is building up our domestic economy where Americans are buying American-grown food, as you correctly say. The other part of it is making tougher trade deals with more countries in terms of our exports that are willing to deal with us fairly. So there are hundreds of countries out there. There's usually only around 24 trade deals or so that America has across the globe. If we negotiate tough trade deals and are exporting our goods to countries that want to deal fairly with us, we can diversify and not depend quite so heavily on China. That's one of the biggest problems, is that China is basically our biggest trading partner and our biggest adversary.
Yeah, it's a symbiotic relationship and not always a good one, that's for sure. I mean, if our economy crashes, China's going right with us, right to the bottom. I mean, it's just the way it is. They've built a middle class there, but they've also done some other smart things. They've focused on energy. We have not. They've focused on food supplies. We have outsourced too much. I remember back, heck, I was a kid, maybe the 1970s, maybe 1980-ish. I saw a bumper sticker that said something about, go ahead, buy your foreign car, but look out for the day you buy a foreign salad. Something to that effect, basically. And people say, don't buy Japanese cars. They were fighting hard. I live in a General Motors town, but they were warning us It's fine. Go ahead and laugh about buying your foreign car until you start buying foreign food. But that's what we do. A tremendous amount of our food is imported now. I can't even believe it. We have the greatest farmland in the world here, don't we?
We do. It's incredible that you say that, because a farmer said to me just last week, we don't like depending on foreign oil. Wait till we depend on foreign food. Same idea. So farmers are talking about the exact thing you just said. And here's the deal. We're wiping out our farms at 45,000 per year on average for the past century, while at the same time we're importing more than $40 billion in food in terms of our agriculture trade deficit, importing that much more food than we're exporting. So we're getting it backwards. And that's why we need to make some of the changes that we're trying to work on here. We need to have our foreign food supply secured in the form of small family farms. And we need to have our imports be things like kiwis and stuff that we can't grow here in America as much as possible.
Yeah, and there are things you can't grow here. I mean, we don't really grow coffee. One place we grow it in Hawaii, and, we don't grow avocados here. We don't. But most things, the Central Valley of California, Florida, Texas, apples from Michigan and Washington. We grow a lot of great things, blueberries here in Michigan and across the country. And yet I go to the store and the blueberries are from Peru and the apples are from Canada. I'm like, what are we doing? I mean, honestly. Anyhow, real quick, give you the last word.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing that we can do about this, Steve, is that every single American consumer can take a step toward the American farmer. If we want homegrown food and we want to have food security, you can take a step toward the American farmer by buying from a grocery store that'll carry local goods. A lot of them will if they know people want it. Farmers markets, local butcher shops, everyone can take a step toward that. And if we can do that and create new entrepreneurial opportunity for our farmer, we can reverse the crisis that I've been writing about and that you've been so rightly raising on your show here. And we can have the American feeding the American family.
There you go, Brian Reisinger. The book, Land Rich, Cash Poor, My Family's Hope and the Untold History of the Disappearing American Farmer. Brian, thank you, as always. We'll take a break and be right back with sports. All right, time to check in on sports now with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Brian Rocchio and Bo Naylor each hit home runs in the bottom of the 8th inning to break a 1-1 tie, and the Cleveland Guardians beat the Detroit Tigers 6-1 yesterday at Progressive Field, evening their American League wildcard series at 1. George Valera also homered for the Guardians. Game 3 this afternoon in Cleveland. Manny Machado hit a 2-run homer in the 5th inning, and the San Diego Padres shut out the Chicago Cubs 3-0 at Wrigley Field. That National League wildcard series even at 1. Game 3 tonight in Chicago. Austin Wells singled in Jazz Chisholm in the bottom of the 8th inning, and that gave the New York Yankees a 4-3 win over the Boston Red Sox in Game 2 of the American League wildcard series, all even at 1. The third and deciding game is tonight in Yankee Stadium. Mookie Betts went 4 for 5 with 3 RBIs, and the Los Angeles Dodgers finished off a 2-game sweep of the Cincinnati Reds, winning last night 8-4 at Dodger Stadium. They'll play the Philadelphia Phillies in the next round. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, we talk about the Tigers at this point in the conversation because, well, we just do. They won the first game. Scooble's gone, right? That's it. You can't throw him again because it was, 2 days ago?
The only way Scooble would throw tonight is if you put him in the 9th inning to close out a series win. That has happened before. He would probably only be able to go 1 inning, but you'd rather not use him because if you win today, you're saving him for Game 1 of the division series on Saturday in Seattle.
Yeah. And that's Saturday, so yeah, boy.
Yep, Saturday. If they win. If they lose, obviously the season over and it doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter. Well, that's okay. So, and your money, of course, is not on the Tigers. Your money, of course, is on
Detroit. It's not on Detroit, as they say across the river in Windsor. Detroit.
Rusty old. Yeah, rusty old. Oh, it's the church. What Detroit they pray anyhow.
Oh yeah, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
That 50th anniversary's coming up too.
Yeah, it is. That was 1975, wasn't it? Gosh, remarkable. That's a little good. That's a good tidbit, Brock. Brock brings out the Trivial Pursuit game and wins.
Coming up in a month.
Yeah, my sister-in-law's uncle was supposed to be the cook on that ship, memorialized in that song, but he was deathly ill. They replaced him for the voyage.
Wow, that's wild.
That's wild. Anyhow, more on the Steve Gruber Show when we continue.
When a
something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Well, it sure is. I'm glad to see you here with me this morning. Glad to have you on board as we get on down the road today. So much to talk about as we continue on, right? All right, so here are three big things you know this hour. Number one, we learned that ADP payroll cratered by 32,000 last month. 32,000 less people getting paychecks according to ADP. They're the payroll, company. So that's not a good sign. Number two, Garland Gilchrist, running for governor in Michigan as a Democrat, says that Israel's committing genocide against Palestinians. Gee, I wonder whose vote he's pandering for. And number three, this government shutdown. Democrats are already, how do I put this? I think the official technical term is screwed. I do. I think that they are completely screwed, are the Dems, because they already lost 3 votes to begin with, right? Nevada, Pennsylvania, which is Fetterman, of course, and Maine, Angus King, who's calls himself an independent, but really he's a Democrat. But the headlines that the few thousand people who run Washington read in the morning check the 3 big platforms that used to be big newspapers. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Washington Post. The networks that dominate online traffic, Fox News and CNN, and the 4 newsletters that are vividly read within the Beltway, even though they barely make a ripple outside the Beltway, Axios, Semaphore, Politico, Punchbowl News. 9 total landing pages. Every single one of them calls it the Schumer shutdown. Every single one. Chuck Schumer is in trouble here, because all 9 of those pages are going to chart the rising cost to Democrats of the shuttering of the government. Schumer lost 3 votes of the caucus to begin with, and that's going to grow with every passing day, including today. I told you from the beginning that there was cracks in the armor, that this was not going to last, that they were in real trouble, the Democrats, by trying to pull this stunt, and a stunt that it is, because all it is, all it is Chuck Schumer trying to protect his Senate seat. He doesn't give a damn about the American people. He doesn't want to be humiliated by AOC in a primary. But that's where this is headed. AOC is going to primary Chuck Schumer, and if she does, she is going to win. So let me just make this clear. AOC is going to primary Chuck Schumer, and she will win. Chuck Schumer cannot control the radical fringe of his party. That's where we find ourselves on this Thursday. Chuck Schumer has lost control of his Democrat Party on the fringe. The radicals have taken control. He is a puppet dancing on the strings for people like AOC. That's where we are with this. Again, federal government shuts down, 9 pages. Both sides are responsible, said the liberal outlets, but the Schumer shutdown. They know Schumer is afraid of AOC. They know the hard left is running this thing. Its unofficial leadership comes from the squad. They've hijacked the party. They've turned it into a bunch of socialists and, frankly, communists. Bernie Sanders is a kook. Bernie Sanders has always been a kook. A kook that, firmly believes in communism and socialism, even though he himself was kicked out of the commune for being what? Lazy. Go figure. He's too lazy to be in a commune, but he's perfect to be a senator from Vermont. In the spring, Schumer got the continuing resolution through. This time he did not. He's going to have to find 5 senators, because it was 55-45. He's got to find 5 Democrats. They're going to vote for a clean resolution to put the government back to work, and it cannot include him. You see, if he votes for it, then AOC's got him by the short hairs. She's got him. He knows it. Everybody knows it. This is not about what's right for the American people. This is not about what's right for you. It's about Chuck Schumer desperately clinging to that seat in New York that he's held for, 3 terms? Whatever it's been now. This is going to go on. This is going to go on until he gets assurances, and he's not going to get this. And if she does tell him she's not going to run against him, she's lying. This is going to go on until Chuck Schumer thinks that his seat is safe. It's not, Chuck. It's not. So here's how this is going to play out. It's going to play out until he thinks he has assurances that'll make his seat safe, which it's not. Or it gets to the point that it's so painful for other senators beyond Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Maine that they just say, look, we're done. We're done. Maybe that's a Democrat. I don't think it's going to be in Michigan. There's going to be an open seat in Michigan. But maybe it's going to be a seat in one of these contested areas like North Carolina or Michigan, wherever. The Democrats are going to fold. Democrats that are vulnerable are going to fold. How long is Ossoff going to hold out in Georgia, for example? There's a good example. How long is he going to hold out? Right? Got to ask yourself, how long is Ossoff? There's the first one. He'll be the next one to go. So here's what I think. I don't think it matters. I think AOC is going to primary Chuck Schumer. I think she's going to win, and I think AOC is going to be the next senator from the state of New York. How sad is that? What a state of affairs it is when AOC is your best option. If you're a Democrat, you're voting for AOC, boy, what a thin bench. American Muslim and Arab voters helped Donald Trump win the state of Michigan in 2024, as you know. Now, Michigan Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist, running for governor, is saying that Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. Of course, he's pandering for the same vote by saying that. He needs those voters out of Dearborn and Dearborn Heights and that part of the state of Michigan. He's got to have it. If he doesn't have it, he can't be governor. And he knows it. If he doesn't have it, he can't be governor, and he knows it. So that's pretty simple, isn't it? This part of the program brought to you by my friends at Well Connect. If you've got a water well, you already have half a geothermal system. Just add a Well Connect in as short as 8 hours. Start saving big. You'll cut your heating costs up to half, extend the life of your furnace, cool your home almost for free, and without major renovation. But here's the important, urgent message about this. The subsidies that are available from the federal government are running out at the end of the year. So if you want a Well Connect, now is the time. If you want to go into winter and cut your heating bills by as much as 90%, go to wellconnectgeo.com. wellconnectgeo.com. Find out more. You can see the graphics for those of you streaming anywhere in North America where you have a well in the yard and you're in one of the colder states, New York, Michigan, Montana, wherever. You can put it in yourself too, by the way. If you're one of those DIY people, you can do it. And they're also looking for dealers. Are you an HVAC person? They're looking for dealers. wellconnectgeo.com. All right, back at it here as we look. We try to make you the most informed, best educated audience in anywhere. Frankly, I don't care how you get your information: radio, streaming, television. I don't care how you get there. We want you to be well prepared for anything that happens. That's why we go through so many different topics every single day. My next guest is a good friend of mine, Bruce Lavelle, longtime senior advisor to President Trump, former Small Business Administration advocate for the White House. Bruce, nice to see you.
Yeah, good morning, Steve. How's it going?
Going good. All right, so looking at the economy, a lot of good things out there. I saw yesterday on Wall Street, all-time record highs set again, but there are some concerns out there. One of them came yesterday from ADP, the payroll service company, that said they had a drop of 32,000 people getting paychecks, which to me means that here in October, the Fed's going to drop interest rates maybe by a half a point, 50 basis points, which would, again, spur the economy. A lot of good things out there, a lot of positive things out there. I think some of this might be because of government employees leaving, but there is concern. It's not all perfect yet, Bruce. What are your thoughts?
Well, thanks for having me. What my thoughts are, listen, we're in the first, 300 plus days of cleaning up the 4-year travesty mess debacle of the previous administration. Let's just be honest. There's millions of folks here in our country we don't know. The question is how much, how much money have we been spending the taxpayers' dime on those Democrat initiatives, obviously with, free EBT cards and hotels, et cetera, and God knows whatever. So, I think, we're still in the early stages. It is looking optimistic. But, one thing, too, Steve, that points out more than anything is the fact that I'm starting to see, and me as a business owner in Atlanta for 30 years, is the gradual progression of consumer confidence with President Trump being in office and seeing a lot of the initiatives that he's putting in place and et cetera. So I think that's really part of where our momentum is going.
I think that's true. Consumer confidence, I think, is real. And again, if you drop the interest rates, it gives people the opportunity. First of all, they get better rates on their credit cards if they're carrying debt. They can afford to get a used car. Maybe they've been living a car long. Maybe they can get their first mortgage and get into a house. All of these things. Because, I see the drop in payroll, but then I also saw last month a surge of 20% in new home sales. So that's a really good indication of things going in the right direction. So you lower those interest rates, and that's why Donald Trump is arm wrestling with the Fed. Get the rates down so we can move people into houses, into new cars, into different things, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing I really hope to address, that they will address, and I'm not really the one for government to lean on the private sector. But the 28% interest rates on the credit card rates, I think the banking industry has done very well in the last several years, and I think there needs to be, respectfully, an adjustment on those high interest rates. I
agree with that. Now, I believe in free enterprise, but that, when some of the highest rates were 29.99%, that's loan sharking. I don't care. That's loan sharking, and that's illegal in this country.
Yeah, and some, young people are trapped in that. They make the payments, but there's really no pathway of paying it off.
Yeah.
Because the rates are so high. And granted, it does have to come from being a good steward of your money, but that's one of many that can climb, get folks to climb out of some of the debt and, really go forward.
Yeah. So what are some of the things you'd like to see here? Because here's what's going on. The government shutdown, as you know. It gives the president and Russ Vought and Scott Bessent and others, they can chop parts out of the government that the Democrats will never get back. They can right-size government. Now, I'm not rooting for people to lose their jobs, but everybody knows the government is too big. It's bloated. You have far too many layers of middle-level management and more people and nonsense. We've got to get the government right size so the American taxpayer can get a break as well. What would you like to see during this shutdown that would make you feel better about the size of government?
Well, the unfortunate part is how it was done, obviously with the Democrats trying to leverage health care to get deals, obviously to fund illegal immigration. Let's just be honest with that.
Sure.
The other part of that too, it transcends in county, states around the country with really excess government. And listen, as well as I do, Steve, you've been to DC, DC, what, 98% of the workforce is Democrat voting, but also the government is the largest employer in the nation. It shouldn't be that way. And I think this is going to give the opportunity for the Trump administration to take a look under the hood. I just talked about this earlier on another show about, okay, let's go back and look at some of the redundancies. Let's look at, as you stated earlier, the assistant manager to the assistant to the assistant to the deputy assistant to the assistant. The layers that the taxpayers are funding. And listen, I did an op-ed on this years back on which counties and states sustain, the best. And when the economy has some bumps and downturns, it's the ones that have the least tax burdens on the business owners and the taxpayers. And that is true. For example, some of the counties here, I know in DeKalb, this guy, Michael Thurman's announcing he's running for governor. As a Democrat, I said, well, you pushed the sales tax even more in the county, and you grew the government of the county. That's not being a job creator.
No.
Job creator, cutting the tax and letting guys like me have less FICA that we have to pay those payroll taxes every quarter. We can incentivize our employees and go hire more employees.
Yeah, everybody knows when you reduce costs, fees, taxes, the economy does better. We'll keep an eye on the shutdown and where it goes. I think that Chuck Schumer's in real trouble because I think he loses either way. I think AOC is going to primary him either way, I think. Bruce, I got to run, my friend, but you come back anytime. It's always nice to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. Wish we had more time with him today. Bruce LaBelle, former senior advisor to President Trump. Longtime senior advisor, I should say. Not former, long time. I'll take a break. Be back. All right, so Anthony, I hope this doesn't come as a shock to you. A little bit worried about this.
It does.
You might not have heard, Anthony, but the rapper Glizzy the Tweaker has been killed in Chicago.
Oh.
Glizzy the Tweaker has been killed in Chicago. I didn't mean to upset you and make you giggle like that.
Well, I wasn't expecting the second part.
Well, Glizzy the Tweaker was, he tried to bust into a home and rob a guy. Glizzy was celebrating his 19th birthday with armed robbery. But he busted into the home of a construction worker who had a concealed pistol license, and he brought those singing days to an end. Yeah. Along with three others attempted to rob a construction worker, apparently at a renovation site. The worker, legally armed, fired 4 shots. The other suspects fled the scene. Another one was shot. They don't know where he ended up, but he'll be at the hospital at some point. So there you have it. He did not make it, and I thought you should know that. In Chicago, another strange. Here's something you probably haven't heard. Yeah, Anthony, you know how Democrats are always talking about mass shootings and how it's a white guy crime, right?
Yeah,
right.
Flapping their gums.
How many and this is the metric I'm going to use. 3 or more victims. 3 or more victims. How many mass shootings in Chicago so far this year? 3 or more victims. 3 or more people shot in Chicago. How many mass shootings this year?
2,000.
No, not like that. 72, though.
Oh.
72. I mean, you think that these they never get reported, though. The mass shootings in Chicago never get reported. 72 with 3 people or more. One of them had 18. 18 people shot at one of those deals. So, you know.
I hope these people find Jesus.
You're incorrigible.
I'm serious.
Well, I agree.
Some kind of response by Anthony.
Eric Nesbitt is next. He's running for governor in Michigan. We could use one. Back after this. All right, back to it as we continue the conversation and keeping you the best informed audience anywhere. The Michigan Senate Minority Leader Eric Nesbitt is here with me today. Eric, nice to have you back on the program. Senator, nice to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me, and thanks for covering all the news that matters.
Well, we do our best. Yeah, we do our very best. And, you know, a lot of people don't cover the news quite the same as we do, and that's okay. You came out on top. I haven't talked to you since the Mackinac straw poll. Yeah, you came out on top there. How does that make you feel?
Well, yeah, coming out of Mackinac, we won the straw poll. And I think it's a group, when you have a group of activists and Republicans that are deeply understand all the candidates that are out there, it's a blessing that they know that I have the vision for the state, that I have the chops to make a difference, and that people, it's tough to make it in Michigan right now, and people want a governor that will work to make sure that we can make it in Michigan again for our kids, our workers, and our small business owners.
Right. So we dodged the bullet a little bit here with the government shutdown. I'm told Jay DeBoyer was here yesterday. He said he felt that maybe today or tomorrow an actual budget could be in place. The Democrats, of course, dragged their feet when there was a plan in place by Speaker Matt Hall. I think he did a pretty good job, Matt Hall, making sure that did a fine job, making sure we didn't get shut down. Where are we in that process?
Well, continue to work through the issues that really matter to the people in Michigan. That means fixing our roads. That means making sure that our kids are able to read at grade level. That means making it easier and lowering the cost of government and rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse in government, and doing away with these phantom employees so that workers and families can make it in Michigan again. You got to look at what the challenges are in Michigan, and unfortunately, with this governor who's been globe-trotting around the world, Japan and Singapore and Germany, instead of actually working on solving problems to make it easier for our workers and small business owners and our families and our kids to make it in Michigan again, that she's been more concerned in trying to build an international profile. I mean, how she was in Toronto yesterday giving a speech instead of working to make sure that we're solving some of the biggest problems here in the state, to lower the cost of living, to make it easier to build a business, and to making sure that our kids are able to read.
Well, that's incredibly important. You know, how is it that we continue to dump more and more money? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere recently that students in Flint, each student's getting somewhere around $40,000 per kid. And the results are terrible. Is that really the best we can do?
Well, you look at it, when our kids aren't able to make it in Michigan, that means our next generation isn't going to be able to make it here in Michigan. And our number one export used to be cars, and I'm afraid our number one export is becoming our young people. That needs to end. And as your next governor, I'm going to work to make sure that that ends. When 3 out of 4 fourth graders aren't able to read at grade level, we need to get back to basics to make sure our kids are able to read. That get out the DEI, back the ABCs, make sure we're back in phonics and the science of reading. We have literacy coaches for our teachers. We have in-depth tutoring for the kids that are falling behind. And let's all get together to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Instead of teaching the 26 pronouns in school, it should be the 26 letters of the alphabet. And I just was talking to parents to send their kids to a school in Wayne County. I was talking to them 2 weeks ago, and their sixth grader, it was a 12-year-old that was sent to the principal's office because he didn't use a they, them pronoun for another boy in the class.
And if you don't use the pronoun for this, my pronouns, by the way, you probably knew this, are Your Highness. You knew that, of course. And if can you imagine walking into a courtroom and demanding a judge, you need to use my pronoun. My pronoun is Your Highness. And a judge having to refer to a defendant that way or whatever. It's the insanity. It's just stupid. Stop it.
Well, God bless that kid that when he went to the office, he goes, well, President Trump says we didn't have to use this anymore.
And the response?
It sounded like the response from the principal was a little better than that of the teacher. But when schools are dealing with crap like this, instead of actually making sure that our kids are able to read, that folks are either career ready or job ready. I mean, folks in Lansing and D.C. with a one-size-fits-all curriculum saying everybody has to go on to college, it's messed up a whole generation of kids. We don't have the tradesmen we used to have. We don't have the blue-collar workers we used to have. And part of the challenge, if we're going to follow President Trump's lead to rebuild American manufacturing, rebuild our infrastructure, making sure that we're building America again instead of just made in the USA. We need to make sure we can make it in Michigan again. Is that every kid either needs to be career ready, so by the end of high school, what's that career path, or college ready. My oldest brother, 35 years ago, when he was going through school, he did diesel mechanics his junior year at the local career center. And then his senior year, he spent in work co-op at a farm implement dealership. And he came out with a job on day one, no college, but he's had a good family supporting job fixing tractors over the years, and he's done well. Those same opportunities with this one-size-fits-all mandated curriculum that everybody's going on to college, what does it do for anybody if you get a 2 Ds in Spanish just to get a high school diploma? How does that help that kid? How does that help us grow?
How does
the
that help
economy
anybody?
Yeah.
How does that
and
help?
that's what
It
you
doesn't
have
help
right
anybody.
now. Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And this is the challenge that we have in education, is the leadership is lacking, accountability is lacking, and then the choice for parents, being able to trust parents. Unfortunately, with the working family tax cut that President Trump signed earlier this year, the next governor's on day one, and I'll do this, is to sign scholarship for our kids to be able to provide scholarships for kids to go to the schools that their parents decide that they go to.
Yeah, I think education is just, we got to teach our kids better, and we got to stop the indoctrination. Teach them how to think, not what they're supposed to think. Because we need to knock that off. I got about a minute left here. I do want to ask you about the DOJ probe into the $20 million Michigan grant scandal. That's what you're asking for, the Department of Justice to look at this. It's getting serious. We got about a minute here. Where are we at on this?
Well, there needs to be a full uncovering. This is all part of the challenge with the budget process in Michigan that's making government more expensive and less accountable for the people. And over the last few years, it continues to be a bigger and bigger challenge for working families to afford the state government that we have. A few years ago, there was a no-bid contract of $20 million that went to a crony of Governor Whitmer.
Correct.
And it was supposed to help develop the economy. Hasn't done anything. She's wasted the money. $10,000 first-class plane tickets, $5,000 coffee makers, a $500,000 salary. It's disgusting. Stuff like that needs to end. MEDC needs to be shut down. This is our version of the USAID right here in Michigan. It needs to end.
Yeah. Greatly appreciate you. Real quick, people want to know about your run for governor. Where do they find you?
NesbittForGovernor.com. NesbittForGovernor.com. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Follow me around. There's only one Eric with an A. A-R-I-C, Nesbitt. Eric Nesbitt.
Eric, always good talking to you, my friend. Thank you.
God bless you.
There you have it. God bless you. When we come back, God bless all of us. Ivy will be here. Yeah, you got it. After this. All right, back to it now. And, like I said, we're all winning here today. Why? Because, hey, here she is, everybody. Ivy Watch. Look, everybody, it's Ivy. Good morning. Round of applause, please.
Good morning, Steve.
Thank you very much.
You're funny. I was wondering there if you were just like waiting for me to open the segment again, or you were just, delayed
I was
start.
testing you. It's only 8 seconds.
Oh, that's true.
So what's on your mind?
A couple headline stories that I've been looking at today. In California, police officers pull over a Waymo autonomous car.
How do you pull over a Waymo?
Right. And actually, it did pull over.
Yeah.
And they get to the car, realize that there is no one in the car, and then they don't know how to ticket the vehicle. There's not like a drop box for tickets, So it made an illegal U-turn.
Gotcha.
They were actually doing a DUI sting. It did this illegal U-turn in front of them. They pulled the car over. They did contact Waymo, but they don't have like a little box to check.
Yeah, I think those cars
robot, so they didn't write the car a ticket.
Yeah.
But I know these cars really freak me out because
I think they got Waymo problems than they tell you.
Nice one. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, they what I've heard is sometimes they really slow down, and like if the light is yellow, a lot of people kind of go through the yellow light depending on when the yellow light started. These cars just stop way ahead of time and then just sit there for minutes if the light continues to be yellow.
Where was it?
It's causing a lot of traffic issues, but
somewhere where there was rioting going on, they were burning the Waymos because the Waymos would get confused and the rioters would just attack them and set those on fire. Where was that? Was that Vegas? Someplace, anyway.
I don't know. I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up for you. Go
interesting.
Ahead.
Yeah. Another one, the DNR just there was a credible report of an alligator sighting on Belle Isle in Michigan.
That's Detroit for you people. An alligator in Detroit. Right over
when
here.
I saw this story, I laughed out loud because my sister Sarah, is always completely freaked out about. I'm like, Sarah, we live in Michigan. There are no sharks in the Great Lakes. And then she'll go on to say, but I could be the first victim of a shark in the Great Lake. And here we go, an alligator in Belle Isle. I'm going, oh my gosh, let's not share the story with her because she'll be frightened.
By the way, they were burning the Waymos in the Los Angeles riots June of this year before the National Guard was sent in.
Okay.
Yeah, Waymo.
Just for violence, not for any particular reason?
Right, because they could get the protesters could confuse the cars, set gasoline to them, set them on fire. And these are expensive cars. And now I remember going back to June, there was a stream of Waymos leaving Los Angeles. Like, we can't afford to have you keep setting our cars on fire,
Interesting. Or they summon them back to the main facility and get them out of where they are? That's interesting.
I guess they went back to the Bat Cave.
Oh, gosh. It is kind of freaky when you think about it.
I'm
not sure I would
weird.
be comfortable in one.
I don't like it.
I prefer,
of course, when we were in Vegas, we saw those little boxy things. They're not Waymos, little boxy cabs where you basically have a bench on either side facing each other. No driver. They were testing them in Vegas when we were there last month, right?
Yeah. They still make me very nervous. It's just, I would prefer human interaction. You never know. Sometimes just crazy things happen where a robot may or may not be able to make a last-minute decision. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, because here's the thing. Here in Michigan, where we live, you get snow, ice, sleet.
Right. I just don't see that working
here.
Yeah,
the sensors ice up while you're in the middle of a drive. We get freezing rain here enough, right?
Right.
Not necessarily an ice storm, but just sleet, freezing rain, boom. Your sensors, you get iced up while you're driving, then what? You just drive off into a cornfield or into a tree? Come on now.
It's scary.
I don't trust it.
Yeah, definitely scary.
Yeah.
So, there's this, I think did you play this Shri Tanadar bite earlier where he completely admits to the reason the government has been shut down, which is because of the Democrats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you wanting to play it?
Yeah, go ahead. Where's Anthony? Here he is.
Which bite was that, Steve?
I don't know.
Well, I actually...
It's 5. It's bite 5.
Okay.
5.
Returning back to Detroit this morning after the Republicans failed to show up in the U.S. House. We got to make sure Americans have the health care that they need. And if that means we got to shut this government down, so be it.
Yeah, there it is. If we got to shut the government down, so be it. Love the hair. I love how a guy, glues a raccoon to his head and calls it hair.
Well, I found this bite actually from the debates. This would have been, I think, 2016. Anthony, do you have that one I sent you?
A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
And every single one of the Democratic candidates for president raised their hand.
But now they say, oh, that's illegal. You can't do that. We would never do that. Of course they would.
Right. This is why I love the internet and going back and recalling things that were said. And the proof is in the pudding. There it is.
Yeah.
Yes, they want to give illegals health care.
And why do they want to do that? It's a way to buy votes.
Exactly.
It's a way to buy votes. That's exactly what it is. What did I just see?
There was a story out of Illinois, too, that they were cutting health care for veterans, and but they were increasing the health care for illegals.
Of course they were.
It's just like, come on, people. This doesn't make any sense. There's no common sense involved in this.
None.
We can't. I understand if you want to seek asylum in this country, there's ways to do that. There are legal ways to do that. There are many people here.
I have a suggestion. Adopt an illegal. You pay for their health care. You want to pay for health care? Pay for them. You take care of them.
Right. Well, but there is a process for this. Follow the process. Right?
Yes, there is.
All right. Well, I love you, Steve. Thank you.
Love you too, Ivy. Always the highlight of the program. She is. You are. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. Final thoughts after this. People All right, here it is. Lake County, Florida. In case you missed it. Happened a week ago, but I missed it, so I'm bringing you up to speed now. Lake County, Florida, the first to have the Charlie Kirk Memorial Highway. It's one of the big commuter roads. It will connect Lake and Orange counties right between sort of the Disney theme park in Orlando and the more residential county. I think it's just a road that's going to get a lot of eyes. People are going to see it. It's going to say a lot about our community. The sign's completed. It'll be up here shortly. The Charlie Kirk Memorial Highway, Lake County, Florida. Congratulations to those folks for doing the right thing. Congratulations to those folks for doing the right thing. I do truly appreciate that. And I can't believe it's been 3.5 weeks now. It is absolutely remarkable. It's been 3.5 weeks. And the loss is still there for me. It is. I've seen a number, but I see Charlie Kirk videos more. They're more prevalent now than they were during his lifetime. More prevalent than they are during his lifetime. So, more people are hearing him. More people are going to church. More people are getting involved. And I think that's great. Last I heard, it was over 100,000 applications for new Turning Point USA chapters across this country. 100,000 plus. I mean, if you're going to have a legacy, that really is it, isn't it? Anyhow, congratulations, Lake County, Florida. Charlie Kirk Memorial Highway, and if they're going back and forth to Disney, I mean, does anybody go to Disney anymore? But if they do, they'll see it, those people. All right, fight the good fight, keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. Remember, only you can save America. And how do you do that? Work harder. Be better. Talk soon.